Yes, this is the Extreme Makeover by Ashley Williams for NU 713, Organizational and Systems Leadership for the Advanced Practice Nurse. Some learning objectives. We're going to relate, and we relate conversations to their effect on culture. We're going to use identify to identify organizational communication and the role of relational leading. We're going to use name to name two patterns of relating and describe the outcomes of relational leading and responsive relating. And we're going to use know to know the difference between patterns of meaning and making meaning. We're also going to use discuss to discuss the importance of using language purposely, listening purposefully, and being mindful. We're going to compare different types of planning. We're going to describe how each facilitate or hinder innovation within an organization. We're going to explain the benefits in thinking, and we're going to recognize barriers to innovation. An example of miscommunication in the workplace, or a tale of two teams. So 1 month ago, two opposite teams were combined into one new team. The utilization management team and the medical determination review team were completely integrated into one unit under one manager, and nurses from both teams were trained on each other's processes for 2 days. And it should be noted that upon hire, nurses on both teams were trained for 30 days before they assumed any of their job responsibilities. So where was the lack of communication? There was no explanation given of the reasoning for the combination of the teams. There was no forewarning of the teams being joined. There was no direction or explanation given of any type of clearly defined job role. The merging has not been cohesive due to a lack of communication on responsibilities that are expected. It leaves coworkers feeling anxious, overwhelmed, underprepared, and frustrated as expectations remain unclear. So the conversation theme goes to culture portrayed by conversations. Overwhelming caseload leads to frustration, to the verge of leaving and looking for another job. The lack of training makes you feel inadequate and completely underprepared to handle responsibilities. Mandatory combining of teams leads to inadequate expectations being provided, and there's been a huge lack of communication, which has led to a huge frustration related to unclear job roles, performance expectations. Organization as conversation, the patterns of meaning versus patterns of relating. So meaning being the organization's missions and values. We like to do the best that we can for our patients, get our patients into the correct post-acute care facility that is needed in the right amount of time for the patient. So as they're coming out of the acute hospital stay, they go directly into the post-acute care facility. And relating is how nurses interact among teams and within other teams. And we operate by chain of command. We go to a supervisor, then a manager, and then a director. The lack of communication, it causes extreme frustration and mistrust. We do have new leadership, and that could be some of the mistrust as well. We all feel overwhelmed by the new structure and lack of the defined roles and expectations. The nurses on my team, we all remain frustrated, and when that is told to leadership, the leadership team ignores the need for clarification. And again, the new leadership may be also taking part in that. Organization as conversation relational leading. We really need improved communication across both teams to unify into one team. We need improved training with realistic expectations. We need connectivity across our newly combined team. Patterns of relating. Knowledge is created through relating to one another. Responsive relating is our team combining our actions to achieve a common goal. Relational leading is the element of power, is part of all human unity and creates a sense of coming together. So we really need that sense of coming together as a team to relieve that anxiety and frustration. 2 patterns of relating would be talking and listening. The patterns of meaning and making meaning. The patterns of meaning, themes that exist within an organization, themes with mission, vision, and values, and patterns of meaning and relating. Again, we like to get our members to the correct post-acute care facility after their acute hospital stay. And making meaning, a social makeup that is created through gesture, response, interaction, where the reaction to a gesture creates a meaning. Meaning, choices, and intentions emerge in the present, and language can create and change meanings. So if we come together and have that open communication, we can change and create new meanings for our members. And then talking, listening, and mindfulness. Talking, we need to use intentional language, speak openly, and be transparent. We need to utilize conversation to reinforce innovation and the change that's expected. We need to listen and use active and purposeful listening. Meaning comes from the response, and be attentive to conversation. Mindfulness, we need to be aware and present and contribute to the conversations. Everybody needs to be involved so that there is it extends through the whole team. Innovation requires a degree of misconception to lead to new conversation. Relating meaning and determination of understanding. We need to remove mechanistic planning as it deters any possibility for innovation. Both and thinking recognizes there can be more than one right answer and the yet to be determined ideas that come from that open conversation. Innovators must be able to talk and listen, and barriers include not being heard and ignored, and just the lack of communication that's been provided on the expectations. And changing the story and unity of 2 teams. Encourage better communication across both teams and from leadership down to us. Create the change and innovation through clearly defined roles and expectations. Create stability through open and honest communication with leadership, and discuss barriers to job performance, like only getting 2 days of training to perform tasks where, initially the training included 30 days before any job responsibilities were handed out. And changing the story with patterns of meaning. Patterns of meaning, themes that exist within an organization with mission, vision, and values. The meaning comes from improved communication. Language creates and changes the meaning, and gesture response, meaning from the response. Talking, listening, and mindfulness. Talking, open and clear language. Active listening, and mindfulness, being aware and present. Innovation. To become the unified team that we're expected to be, changes need to be made. We must not use mechanistic planning, instill both and thinking, and we need to utilize innovation to create one combined functioning team. The extreme makeover. It would need to include an explanation for the combining of the teams provided by leadership. We need to know why this is happening. We are two totally different teams that do completely different things. So that explanation would mean a lot. And there would be time provided to prepare for the combination of teams, and training would be increased to 14 days instead of 2. Clearly defined job roles will be put in place with detailed expected performance of our cases. And the merging would be cohesive with clear, open communication on those responsibilities, and nurses would feel informed when expectations are clear.